Yo, 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 yo. Good evening, everybody. Good afternoon. Good morning. Whatever it is for you. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome into the show. My name is UltimatDJz. This is Talking Trek Live. Star Trek Fleet Command's official podcast with today's special episode reaching beyond the galaxy of Star Trek Fleet Command into the actual Star Trek universe, where we will be discussing the final half of Star Trek Prodigy. We will be discussing a little bit about some lower decks. We'll be discussing a little bit about some Section 31 and the future of the Star Trek universe as it pertains to other content that we are going to see coming up. Plus, an announcement regarding our very first special guest. It's going to be very, very exciting. And, of course, we have him back in the green room, everybody. Back in the green room, we've got the one and only Mr. Bubba Joe. He's going to be joining us here momentarily. In the meantime, why don't you guys give him a huge welcome in a Talking Trek server sound-off. You guys go ahead and hit it over in Discord. We got Raj kicking us off on server 9 and Noon Whistle on 29. Thank you, Indominus Prime on 53, Jace on 44, Iron Chef on server 14, Scaly Back from the Outback on server 193. Over in the YouTube, lots of UK in the YouTube today, Virtual Army hanging out. Frank, Wayne, thank you guys so very much. Man, haven't heard from Bubba Joe in a long time. Will be interesting to hear from him. Very, very excited about that. Let's check out the Twitch chat. What do we got going on over here? We've got yo, yo, yo. Jace is hanging out. Taverick on server 21. Thank you, 7 of 7 on server 137. That's right, Etsuma, an EU-friendly stream. Here we are. Server 11 is in his house with Odysseus. Thank you very much. Better the Robot on 51. Candy White on 24. John Roll on 32. Engineer on 89. Peace or Assimilation on 57. Louis P on server 20. Happy birthday, Bubba Joe. Silver Tab on 40. Dr. Iron Chef says, can everyone wish Bubba Joe a happy belated birthday? Yeah, we're going to get into it, absolutely. Hero on server 30, thank you very much. Mini Shamo on 13, Snowball on 12, Atsuma on 157. Thank you so very, very much. Man, that is great. Wait, it's your birthday too, Jace? Jace says it's his birthday too. Dragon Keeper is hanging out on server 53. Appreciate you guys all being here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is that you may be on this beautiful, snowy, cold Sunday in which the Packers are going to defeat the Bears. That is indeed going to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, no further ado. Let's just get right into it. We have a packed schedule for you guys today, and I'd like to go ahead and get on in here and welcome to the stage, ladies and gentlemen. You know him, you love him. He is a beloved cast member on this stage, ladies and gentlemen. Bubba Joe is here. Bubba Joe, what's going on, man? What are you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, it's so good to see you, man. So great to see you. Welcome, Baba, says Patirix. Chala hanging out as well, says hello.
Those were bears, I believe, in books as a kid.
What? Baba? Baba?
Yeah.
Baba
Yes.
Bear? Baba? No, Black
Yeah,
Sheep.
Baba Bear.
Baba Black Sheep.
Well, there's Baba Black Sheep. That
Yes.
was when you were a kid in the 1800s.
Yes. I know, Frank. Listen, we're having a little bit of trouble over there against the Bears. That's all right. We've seeded everybody. We're going to come back. We're going to make sure.
Positive.
We're going to make sure
I'm
it's a
full
win.
of positive energy.
Thank you for the positive energy. Bubba Joe, appreciate you being here. It's been an absolute minute since you have been here. And I would imagine that whatever it is that you're keeping busy with here lately, I know it's been a lot of football. It's been a couple of your new games. But whatever it is, we do know, in fact, that whatever it is that you are endeavoring to do right now, one thing remains true. I want it all. Ladies and gentlemen, again, one more big round of applause for Bubba Joe. Fantastic. Yeah, how are you, man?
Nothing ever changes, DJ.
No, nothing at all. As a matter of fact, one thing that we do still use quite frequently
You are wrong.
is this.
Just sit down and be wrong. You are wrong.
That has never died. People still, just even shorthanded, Bubba Joe, they'll just be like, are you sitting down?
Well, if you'd stop being wrong, they wouldn't have a reason to use it anymore.
Oh, well, that will never happen because it's It's me. Yeah. So
Good
there
thing
we
that
are.
the audience and your fans keep you on your toes.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Thank you guys very much. It looks like here, let me move this up here a little bit. Looks like the alerts got covered up there, but thank you for your sound alert. Appreciate that. I foobarred nothing. I never do. I am perfect. But I do I do
Well,
appreciate. I know Frank, he's wearing a Seahawks hat. Tell me what's going on with your Seahawks real quick. We got
they're
they're
going to
done, right?
play. They're going to play the Los Angeles Rams, and then if they win, they will be tied with the Rams, but the Rams have the tiebreaker. So the Rams are going to the playoffs regardless. But the Seahawks are going to have a winning record regardless. They're already got 9 wins, and things are looking good. Where our new coach really turned our defense around. So I'm really excited for the future.
And I love
But
Gino.
This is our last game for the year. Might be the last game we see Gino in a Seahawks uniform. That would really bum me out.
Wait, really? No.
Yeah.
No. Seriously?
Yep.
I think he needs to stick with it, man.
I think we need to stick with Gino as well, and we need to work on our offensive line. But that's just me.
I think he needs to stick with it. You know, Gino has played for a lot of teams. And granted, he's grown older, he's matured, he's wiser in the game, but there was magic in Seattle with Geno Smith. And I think he needs to play it out a little bit.
I agree. I think that Gino, that people will point to his 15 interceptions this year and go, well, that's why. And it's like, yeah, but like he was running for his life on most of those and trying to make, just absurd things happen. So I really think that we should stick with Gino, and I think that we should work on improving our offensive line and really show what we can do with these skill players that we've got. And their vastly improved defense with our defensive coach that we've got. So I am excited for the future, but this season will end today.
Well, it certainly wasn't a failure of a season, and I love Gino. Gino, because I know you listen to the show, because who doesn't? Love you, bro. Okay? Thank you very much for an amazingly entertaining. You have made me into a 70% Seahawks fan. Like, I never really cared about the Seahawks, but you being there, because, we're Morgantown strong, baby. Morgantown strong. All right. I love you, Gino. Do I like baseball? Jace wants to know, Bubba, if you like baseball.
I like taking naps, and that's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, we like taking naps during baseball. All right. Well, listen, we've got a packed schedule. Bubba Joe, very nice to see you today. Thank you for taking the time in between the arcs to be here. A couple of very exciting pieces of information to share with everybody.
Should we tell people how this happened? Should we go over the last 48 hours or so?
Sure. Go ahead, please.
So 2 days ago, DJ's like, hey, did you see, and we'll talk about this thing later, but this thing, and I go, yeah. And he's like, so we'll do it later. We got a couple of dates. We'll go pick it out. I said, great. And he's like, but I think the arc's coming up. We're not going to be able to do a show. We'll have to do one during the arc sometime. I'll hit you up towards the middle or end of January. It'll be fine. We'll do a show then. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then I get a message this morning. He's like, hey, do you want to do a show today?
Well, the calendar worked out, okay? And I didn't realize where we were. We're still in between the arcs. Like, it feels like it's been forever in between the arcs, but I'm liking it. And there is some enjoyable stuff to talk about in the game, but that's not why we're here today. It has been a nice break.
Ahsoka Tano is so much fun to play with.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about your game.
My game.
My bad.
Yes, my game.
Sorry.
But no, it's been really nice. Yeah, I did message him today if he wanted to do a show. Mainly because I don't know why. I've got just this burst of energy here today, Bubba Joe. I was up late last night in Studio B, which, couple of announcements time is what I was going to say. By the way, Bubba Joe, I know that you enjoy going back and at least checking out some excerpts, some clips from the Studio B shows. I don't think have you watched a whole one yet? Probably not. It's not really your thing, right? Like you're not breaking down with the club scene, yeah?
No, that's not really my speed.
That's not your vibe. However, in case it was for anybody else, or in case anybody has not yet had a chance to try it out, Bubba, last night's set was so much fun that I did upload it to Patreon, but here's what I did. We've got the Patreon memberships to get access to Studio B, but this one, I had so much fun with it. It was so amazing. A good set of music all over the map as far as genre. We did some rap and some hip hop. We did some dance and EDM and techno, and then we went back and did rock. I mean, hard rock. It was so much fun. Ladies and gentlemen, last night's Studio B is free. That's right. I said it. It's free. Free. You can go on to our Patreon right now. All you have to do is be a follower of our show, whether you're on a subscription plan or just as a free member. You can go check out our Patreon. Find it on our website at talkingtrekstfc.com or ultimatedjsplays.com. Yeah.
That's a bargain at half the price.
It is. It's free. Absolutely free. All you got to do is be a member. You don't have to have any sort of pass. This particular episode is absolutely free. We want you guys to go and check it out. Maybe you find something that you like and you'll want to subscribe for future content, but this one last night is absolutely free. We had a great time. We went about 4.5 hours, Bubba Joe, until 1:30 in the morning. So then I thought, man, I'm going to be exhausted on Sunday. So I went to bed and I laid in bed with my eyes open wide. And I tried.
You too, huh?
Yeah, I could not sleep last night. I just could not sleep. And then I thought, man, I'm going to be miserable today. Then I woke up at like 9 o'clock this morning, and I was full of energy, and I was just like, man, this is weird.
Was it positive energy?
It was very positive energy. I got up, I did some work, I played with the puppy, and then I realized what was actually happening outside, and I wonder if, most of the time, cold, snowy weather kind of wears you out. But, folks, this is what I came into when I walked out and looked.
I am so positive.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm full of positive energy.
Thank you
Took
for
you
the
guys
positive
long
energy.
enough. I set you up right there.
they're on a little bit of a delay. Listen, I want you guys to take a look outside and take a look at the 14 inches of snow that we've already got. Look how big.
That's not 14 inches.
Look how
of snow.
impressively large those snowflakes are. All right, and I had to wade across 14 inches of snow to get to the studio.
Snowflakes.
They are,
and
big.
It looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's not 14 inches of
It's
snow.
absolutely 14 inches of snow. I had to wade across to get to the studio today.
If you think that is 14 inches of snow, your girlfriend's been lying.
Wow.
That's a big one right there. That's impressively large.
Impressively large. All right, yeah, 14 inches right there. Okay. Dragon Keeper says 5 max. Shows what you know. Yeah, so I've played in the snow for a couple of minutes this morning with the puppy dog. And then I just was like, hey, Bubba, you want to do a show? Let's do a show. And then I'm going to clean. And then I'm going to cook 17 meals. And then I'm going to Tupperware them all. And I'm going to meal prep for the next month. And I'm going to, did I say I was going to clean? And then I'm going to do some laundry. And then, hey, you want to do a podcast? Hey, maybe we should play some Fortnite. And then let's watch 17 seasons of Star Trek. And
then all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, I have adult things I have to go do.
Yeah, I was like, oh my
Year
goodness.
end happened a few days ago. I got to close down some accounts.
I do have to do some accounting. I've got to do some accounting for 2024. But anyway, so
there's a question in the chat that I want to do really quick.
Yes.
My pick is the Vikings. Sorry, Lions fans. If your defense had anyone that you didn't pick up off the street this week, I'd pick you, but I like the Vikings instead. But there is something really cool that I want to get to that's in the chat. Demolition Dude says he's getting articles about Lego Star Trek sets coming in 2025. Did you see this, DJ?
No. Wait, Lego sets?
Yeah.
Oh, I got to check this out immediately. A Lego Star Trek set. All right, let's find out. Let's see if we can see what we can see. Lego Star Trek sets in 2025. All right. Let's see. It's just a rumor. The set is rumored to be the USS Enterprise D. Will have 3,600 pieces and will release on Black Friday 2025. It is said to cost a great deal of hard-earned gold-pressed platinum and will include minifigures of Picard, Riker, Worf, Geordi, Data, Crusher, Wesley, Troy, Guinan, and Spot as well, which would be phenomenal. All right, early estimations, Bubba Joe, what that set's going to cost. I'm going to go $449.
For 3,600 pieces? Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
probably it's right around $450. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. By the way, I didn't make that up. I just love Lego. All right, I'm just kind of thinking, all right, based on the other stuff that they sell, that's probably about right. Louis P. says he's going to go with about $550 on that. Dragon Keeper says $1,500 just because it's the first set. and a collector, and the fact that it's the Enterprise D. I don't know. That might be a little excessive. I could see them.
It's not going to be 1,500.
I could see them playing up on the Phantom a little bit.
It could be 1,500 on the secondary market. It could be 1,500 on the secondary market. But that's,
yeah, for sure.
That's about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Jay says, when's the next Fortnite stream? No idea. It could be later today if I finish the other 28,000 things on my to-do list. However, I do have one other great piece of news, Bubba Joe. We have finally nailed down a date with Dr. Aaron McDonald. We have. Dr. Aaron McDonald has made cameos in at least 2 Star Trek properties, including Lower Decks and Prodigy, and she is the astrophysicist consultant for all of Paramount, all of the Star Trek properties for about the last 6-7 years, Bubba Joe. She is the one that the writers go to when they want to make sure that technobabble actually makes a little bit of sense. Dr. Aaron McDonald was on the cruise last year, the Star Trek cruise. We got to meet with her, and she has graciously agreed to come on to the show and talk to you guys a little bit about the James Webb Space Telescope and how it has changed what astrophysicists have learned about our galaxy over the last year, and how that information is translating into the Star Trek universe, Bubba Joe. So very, very exciting. Plus, she's going to talk a little bit about her current role in Star Trek and what little sneak peeks we might be able to look forward to in the coming years. And then, of course, she's very excited to talk a little bit about the cruise and what is going to be happening at the end of February, early March on Star Trek The Cruise that she will be attending again. Dr. Aaron McDonald is our first official Star Trek universe guest, Bubba Joe, if you will. We had Scribbler last week, but I guess so. It'd be our second official Star Trek universe guest that we will have, not last week, last month, but we'll have Dr. Aaron McDonald on here in just a couple of weeks. All right. Raj says, wow, when is this show happening? We are taping it this week. Now, when I'm actually going to be able to get it out to you guys, I'm not entirely sure. We're working on it, but we are actually taping it this week. All right. Yes. Great. So we will have Dr. Aaron McDonald this week, and very, very excited to see where that's going to lead, where that's going to take us as far as other people. You might remember her partner in crime, so to speak, the biologist consultant of Paramount is Dr. Muhammad Noor, and he is also kind of a fan of the show and plays Star Trek Fleet Command, Bubba Joe, as well. So we've communicated a little bit on that, and he has agreed to come on the show as well. So when we started this, Bubba, I said it would be really nice if we could maybe book, 2 or 3 guests for the year. And by golly, we've got 2 guests already, and it's January.
We missed our goal last year.
We did miss it last year. We did. But I'm really excited and just even more excited for some of the stuff that's going to be happening on this particular segment of Talking Trek, which we are breaking outside of Star Trek Fleet Command, celebrating the return of Bubba Joe, and actually talking about the Star Trek universe, canon, non-canon, all this stuff. By the way, we are here to report on Paramount's alleged removal of Discovery from canon. Bubba Joe and I did a lot of research in this on this past week.
No, we didn't.
I did. You didn't. You didn't want to click on it. We talked about it, but you were like, I don't want to click on it because then all this conspiracy stuff is going to show up in my feed.
News stories polluting my feed anywhere. I don't want it near Facebook. I don't want it near Instagram. I don't want it near my internet browser. I refuse.
I watched it all, and I'm here to tell you, I have no idea what these people are talking about. None of them were based in any kind of fact whatsoever. What's wrong with Discovery? Nothing's wrong with Discovery.
Nothing. Nothing is wrong with Discovery.
There was a huge kerfuffle on the internet this week that Paramount was striking Discovery from canon. I'm here to assure you that that's not true. But we're going to talk about why the kerfuffle began. That'll come up here in just a little bit. But ladies and gentlemen, before we begin anything else, I want everyone to know that it was Bubba Joe's birthday here just a few days ago. It was Bubba Joe's birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Bubba Joe and his birthday. Yes, it was his birthday! And so for that reason, I decided to write a very special edition of Talking Trek Stupid News.
Stupid
Yes.
news.
Just for you, Bubba.
With friends like you, who needs enemies?
I've got your news right here. As a matter of fact, we are currently underway in this crazy winter storm that is expected to bring a significant swath of wintry weather across central and eastern United States this weekend, early into the week. There's going to be so much white powder on the ground, you're going to think you're in a Miami nightclub on New Year's Eve. All right. I already showed you what my driveway looks like. The National Weather Service said snow and sleet accumulations greater than 4 inches are possible, to which, according to most women, is not that much.
See, that would have been a lot funnier if you'd have made the joke before I made the joke about what was in your driveway.
It's 14 inches. You stole my joke, Bubba. Let's see. Oh my gosh, did you guys hear about this? Squid Game 2 has been released on Netflix. I actually really want to watch this. I really enjoyed Squid Game Season 1. I want to watch Squid Game Season 2. The Netflix Korea YouTube channel uploaded a video revealing this week that Squid Game Season 3 is already in production and will land on Netflix June 27th. In this season, people are chosen to earn money in exchange for risking their lives by working on the set of an Alec Baldwin movie. All right, yeah.
See, that's not very timely. That's that one. I mean, the Alec Baldwin part is like, what is that, like 3 years old now?
Well, there was a too soon kind of factor there. We had to.
He's had like multiple careers since then.
No.
He's actually legitimate.
There was a too soon moment. I didn't want to cross over the. Anyway, the first 2 seasons. The joke was in poor taste, Keena. See, that's why I had to wait. There was like a too soon thing. All right. There comes a period of time where you can start making fun of things. And that was making fun of Alec Baldwin. The first 2 seasons of the series, Squid Games 1 and 2, seasons 1 and 2, feature people who risk death for cash, or as Chicago residents call it, driving to work. All right. Hailey Bieber is in the news and celebrated New Year's Eve by indulging on a caviar-topped In-N-Out burger. Caviar on an In-N-Out burger. It's pretty gross, if you ask me. A fast food burger topped with fish eggs really does sound awful, and normally you only really describe really does sound awful when referring to Bieber's music.
Isn't that the other Bieber?
I know. Justin Bieber's music. Sorry, should I have said Justin Bieber's music? Apologies.
But
it's been a minute since I've done the stupid news, Bubba Joe. I'm a little rusty, okay? Listen. That is all I have for stupid news. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'm hearing that Bubba Joe, in all of his full heart, not only wanted to receive the stupid news for his birthday, but also prepared sports for his birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, Bubba Joe is sports. Why is that so quiet? Oh, this.
I don't know why it's quiet. There we go.
Got it. Ladies and gentlemen, Bubba Joe and sports. What do you got for us today, sir?
Well, in sports, your former favorite guy, Aaron Rodgers.
Oh.
Aaron Rodgers acknowledged that Sunday's game could be the last time he plays in the NFL.
Oh.
Which is a silly thing to say because the moment anyone joins the New York Jets is their career is already over.
Yeah, that is.
Jets quarterback has been sacked 37 times this season, which means he's been pinned down by more large men than all of the Kardashian sisters combined.
Oh, snap! Oh, damn, says Candy White. Oh my gosh! Surely you don't have anything after that. You gotta.
I got more. I got more.
Oh God!
I mean, I could make fun of the bug on your upper lip, but we'll go with more sports.
God bless.
We have college football. College football.
Yeah.
Number 11 Alabama couldn't overcome a disastrous first quarter in a 19-13 loss to Michigan in the ReliaQuest Bowl this last week.
Yeah.
Which is easily the worst thing to happen in Alabama since marrying your sibling was outlawed.
Oh my God! Bubba! And you guys made fun of my jokes. Ladies and gentlemen, Bubba Joe is sports. Woo! Bubba Joe getting spicy here these days, man. Look at that. Norwich says, I'm not entirely sure that Kardashian joke is exactly true. Probably not. But that was really funny nonetheless. Getting spicy there, Bubba Joe. Engineer said his were funny. There you go. All right. See, they didn't like mine, as per usual, Bubba Joe.
That's how we know it's the stupid news. The sports ones are funny, and the other ones are not.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. Kardashian joke earned respect, says Scalybag. Appreciate that very much. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the show. Listen, last time we were all together, we were talking about episodes 1 through 10 of Star Trek Prodigy. I was very... I tried to get caught up. I tried to watch all season last time before the show. I didn't get to. I made it to episode, I think 11 or 12, Bubba, is what we had talked about. And then I finished it right after because it was really, really good. I finished it right after, and I just really enjoyed what they did with Star Trek Prodigy. Now, we can talk about a lot of stuff. A couple of the points that were made during the last show was Bubba's complaint that Dal had regressed as a character. Our guest, Shauna Benson, a writer from season 1 of Star Trek Prodigy, came in and said, there was a little bit of regression, but it was also a different style of regression in which he had learned how to be a leader, as you had mentioned, Bubba Joe, but still had not yet learned how to be a captain. And we saw in season 2 him exploring that. As a matter of fact, you and I had a conversation this past week where you actually described it to me really, really well, what Dal has evolved into on the crew of the Protostar as compared to what a traditional Star Trek captain would look like, right?
Right. That's correct. So, in my opinion, what Dal is to the Protostar and their crew is he is their... I think I used the term superhero with you, but he's really just their hero. He's their hero. He's their champion. He is their... We're going to send somebody into the arena to fight for, somebody's survival. He's the person you send down. We got to send somebody down to protect someone. He's the person we're going to send down. He's the person who's going to lay his life on the line for his crew and his family, and he's going to have a good time. And he's going to make jokes and he's going to be inappropriate, but he's the cheerleader and the hero. But at no point was he ever the captain. And he kept thinking that those attributes are being a captain. And he kept confusing those attributes with being a captain. And so when we get into the end of where we broke off with episodes 9 and 10, where in 11 and 12, where we pick up with Chakotay. They find Chakotay finally, right? And so that's and then Dal goes off on his own. Dal is being Dal. He's not being the captain. He's not showing leadership. He is being that hero persona that they need, someone to step up and do something risky to try and bring the crew together, including Chakotay. And then Chakotay remembers what it means to be a leader and what his passion he used to have for Starfleet in his attempt to try and save Dal and go after him and that sort of thing. So what we have is Dal being Dal. And that's fine. That's it. Dal being Dal is an interesting character. But Dal being the captain is not an interesting character because that's not what he's doing. That's not his role. That's not what he's ever done an adequate job of being. And that's where we disagreed, right? You were like, oh, he's fine. I'm like, yeah, but towards the end of last season, he was trying to figure out, okay, I've kind of got this thing figured out. I can have this kind of role, but I'm not going to be the captain. I kind of like Gwen, and I kind of kissed her inappropriately, and that we can, But in season 2, he kind of regressed back to, I'm the captain. It's like, no, you're the superhero. You're the guy that they're going to send down on the away mission that's going to screw things up 3 times, and then you're going to try and make it right. But you're never going to be the captain.
You had mentioned when we talk about the potential romance that could have existed between Dal and Gwen. You had said that you had felt in season 1 that was actually really cringe. You didn't like that. I didn't mind it, I don't think, but in the concept of Star Trek. And after you and I had this conversation, I kind of went back and thought, yeah, these are kids, right? Like, I mean, teenagers, fine, but they are still kids. And the romance piece of this was never really, here's the thing. We've got romance in Star Trek. We've got these plot Bs, these side stories where there are romances among the crew. We've even seen romances amongst the captain. All right. Never really with his own crew or her own crew, but we've seen those types. Well, that's what I was going to say. Kind of borderline. I think the closest you could have come was probably Chakotay and Janeway, which I feel was always a unique kind of relationship. I mean, and I say that not when they were on the ship, Bubba Joe, but when they
got
Grouchy's
stranded. Got one in the chat. He's got one in the chat, and I've got one that predates the Janeway one.
Well, I'm talking about the captain, right? You're saying Spock and Nurse Chapel, that was one. I mean, Worf and Troy, Riker and Troy. You've got all of these different relationships, and that's fine, okay? Worf and Jadzia.
What about Picard and Crusher?
Well, okay. But was that a romance that occurred while he was captain of the vessel? And there's arguments. There's an episode.
Yes.
There's an episode. Sure, there's an episode very early on where he's kind of they're at a campfire. I don't know if they're on a planet, on an away mission, something like that. They're at a campfire. They're talking about Jack, Crusher, and how Picard would have done things different. They flirted a little bit, Asheville says, and I agree with that. I would kind of say that same style of relationship existed between Janeway and Chakotay, and we didn't see it very heavily. We didn't see it really pop through the camera until that episode where they had been infected by that disease and they thought they were going to be marooned on a planet forever. You remember, Bubba Joe? They spent like a month and a half. They built a camp. She was trying to find the cure. He was just content to settle down and live his life with Catherine Janeway. So I think in that episode, you saw the beginnings of what could have been an actual loving marital relationship between Janeway and Chakotay. And then the second they stepped back on the ship, that was it. They had to call it quits, So I'm not opposed to romance in Star Trek. I'm not even, and the fact that they are teenagers, Gwen and Dal, makes it even more expected, right? Teenagers are kind of wild. They're kind of crazy. They're emotional. And, he was enamored by Gwen. And so he gave her this little kiss. That was not offensive to me, I think, as it was to a lot of other people. But I also think that it was a method in which they continued to explore their relationship. And as we saw throughout season 2, the trust and the camaraderie and the faith that they ended up having between each other ended up transcending that romance. It became that of a captain and first officer, if you will, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Do you still feel that was not a natural piece of their character development, that he, kind of had a crush on Gwen?
No, it didn't feel, at the time, it felt very rushed. Like, it felt like we're going to develop this romance in this episode and have them pay it off in this episode.
Oh.
And then
You think?
Yeah, I did. I felt that, there's a difference in between having a admiration for somebody, which is I think where they were at up until that episode, and then they tried to turn it into this romantic thing and then tried to have him kiss her, and then it was like, okay, well that wasn't something she was interested in. And at least they let that go. Right? At least they didn't, play up the, spurned lover thing, because again, that's more of an adult story than a teenage story, right?
Sure.
And so I think that I didn't like it at all. I thought that it was cringe, and I think that something like that is a multiple season arc, right? And I get that if you don't know that your story is going to go past season 1 and you wanted to get that in there and you wanted to have that, be in existence, I guess, but I think that that was putting too much forward into a story that may never have been developed if there was never going to be a season 2. And then there was a season 2, and they kind of already, shot their shot. So I think that, anyway, that was one of the things that really bugged me about season 1. And I think that, I think that there's a lot of people that felt that way. But I think that that's, season 1, that's probably, to me, that was the lowest point of season 1, other than the beginning. I remember telling you I had to watch the first episode like 3 or 4 times. I had to really push my way through the first episode to get to the second and the third and finally realize this is the Star Trek show and this is a show I'm going to enjoy. It took me a while to kind of get there. And so Star Trek Prodigy is, if you are a Star Trek fan and not necessarily an animation fan or not necessarily a kids show fan, it may take you a little bit to get up to speed. But eventually this turns into a decent Star Trek show in season 1. It has a few missteps, but it actually does stick to kind of the plan of Star Trek shows of, invent a problem, find the unique way that they're going to solve it, and then move on to the next day, right? And that's kind of been the mantra for Star Trek. What is the enemy of the week? What is the alien of the week? What is the problem of the week? Did we break their laws and the only punishment they have is death? Okay, well, now we have a new thing we have to deal with. Did we, them learning about the Prime Directive, like that was a new thing for them, right? That's a core tenet of Star Trek, and that was something they had to figure out on their own. I think that they did a really good job of telling a kid's Star Trek story. Kids growing up and trying to be Star Trek or trying to figure out what Star Trek means and what Starfleet means to them. I enjoyed that part of the show. But I don't recall, and that's not necessarily that it never happened, but I do not recall another time where characters from season 1 to season 2 to season 3, through their growth, took a drastic step back, right? I didn't see, a character go from someone who has got this role and then they take a step back and they're not doing that anymore, right? Or they turn into this brilliant person. So like think of all the characters they brought in that were there for 3 or 4 or 5 episodes. People like Barkley in Next Generation. People like before he was a regular. People like Rom in Deep Space Nine. Characters that came in and had growth. Now, whether that's positive change or negative change, they all had character growth and they continued to move forward. At no point did Rom step back to being a dumb bartender again, a dumb waiter, right? That was not his growth. He wanted to make himself different and make himself evolve, and he turned himself into this useful engineering ops character that was helpful to the show and to the people. Never did they go from season 3 to season 4 and go, all right, he's gonna be a bartender again. Like that wasn't like they didn't do that. And I appreciate the fact that Star Trek has done that and done growth like that. And it felt like, excuse me.
Bless you. Woo! Bless you. Birthday sneezes.
I need to talk more evidently because I'm not used to talking this long. And I felt that while they did an okay job of capturing Rock Talk and some of the other characters, I still believe they took a big step back with Dal. And if the show wasn't about Dal, it wouldn't be so in your face, front and center. But because the show is about Dal, it really stood out to me that the break between season 1 and season 2, whether that is because of some of the changes in the writers or something else, they really lost the mark of where they ended season 1. And they either decided consciously to say, well, we need to take a step back and tell the same story again, or we need to do something else. So let's talk about the second half of season 2, though. So we've really kind of gone back and kind of rehashed some of season 1, and I'd like to kind of look forward. So season 2, the second half of season 2 kicks off, and they've found Chakotay. Like, that's one of the things. They haven't seen Chakotay for like 10 episodes or like 9 episodes, because they saw him in an alternate version of reality where they bumped into him, and Chakotay still gets lost, and they go and they're going to try and rescue him. Fine. And then we get Dal doing his Dal thing. That was obviously, for people that wanted to see Chakotay become Chakotay, this was an episode that was going to mean a lot to them, right? This was an episode that was like, oh my God, I love Chakotay. He's awesome. I can't wait to see his character. And then you see this broken Chakotay. And it means something, right? Because now that's a shift in the character, but they explain why it's a shift in the character. They say he's been broken for these reasons, and they set that up very nicely.
Yeah.
But the core of who Chakotay is still there, and we see that come out in the episode, and that's great, right? They tell a good Chakotay redemption story, and so they get Chakotay. They rescue him, they get the protostar up and running, and then they continue on their adventure, right? And they continue on into the rest of the episodes of the season. This is where I believe this season starts to kick off, right? We have to accept that they took a step back with Dal in the beginning of the season, but now we are in this space where, okay, now we've got the meat of this. We've seen Wesley, we've seen Chakotay, we've seen Janeway, we've seen all these characters. They're doing a great job. Where are we going with this? And then now the big story starts to pick up. You know, all the Star Trek shows after the original series, they all start with, you know, this kind of overarching thing of what's going to happen. Like, you know, when are the Borg going to get to the Alpha Quadrant? Or what's going on with the Romulans? There's, you know, they'll drop in little tidbits here and there. What's going on, and what's this wormhole thing? What's going on with the people on the other side of the wormhole? How is that going to play in? And so they take these little elements until they turn into big stories. And so in this series, what we have is we have these elements that are turning into the big story. And now we've finally got everyone together. We've got everyone going, and now we're working our way to the big story. So why don't you tell me what you think of the second half?
You know, I loved I loved this redemption story with Chakotay. The very first moment that we saw Chakotay in Star Trek Prodigy was, as you say, he was very broken. I will say this, and kind of stepping back. Let me start with this. All of these characters that they've brought back, Kate Mulgrew, all right, Robert Picardo, now Robert Beltran, and Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton just nailed it, just knocked it out of the park with this, and it was not even the Wesley Crusher that we knew from TNG. This was a grown, evolved, a seasoned traveler, almost like a as you mentioned in the last show, almost like a Doctor Who style character who has seen everything, experienced everything, seen all of the realities that don't exist or do exist in some alternate timeline. He is the knower of all things. And how does that impact a human mind?
Not unlike Will Wheaton himself.
Very much so. The way that he played this character was so different from Wesley Crusher that we knew, yet relatable and familiar. I think that was the ultimate accomplishment by both Robert Beltran and Will Wheaton in these two particular roles, in which they were the same character. However, they were totally different. And I found that was very, very impactful to me, Bubba Joe, because it was familiar enough for them to be the same character. But with the passage of time changes all people, right? Like with the passage of time, experience and trauma and joy and happiness and loss all shape who we are as people. And we saw that with Wesley Crusher in Prodigy, and we saw that especially with where you were leading with Chakotay. Chakotay, through a selfless act, marooned himself on this planet to protect the Federation. In doing so, he lost his entire crew, including his trusted number one, whom it just destroyed him. It absolutely destroyed him. Imagine, you know, this is going to sound cheesy or cringe, but imagine just losing everything in your world that matters to you and what's going to be left of you. You know, a shell or a husk of a person. And that is what we saw. What we saw was Chakotay broken, lost everything, had given up all hope, was literally just in survival mode because he wanted to spite the next day. He had lost everyone he had loved and cared about. Catherine Janeway was in an alternate reality. His new number one had passed away, sacrificing himself for his ship. His entire crew, I don't remember if they mentioned the number of souls in that crew, but his entire crew lost and gone. So the way that Robert Beltran came in 23 years later, and that's where we are, folks, 23 years later, and portrayed Chakotay in this way, having experienced 23 years, and we're in real life now, 23 real world years separating his last portrayal of this character. And really, honestly, probably about that same amount of time in the fictional universe as well, Bubba Joe, that he came back in and was able to give us the Chakotay that we knew, but not the Chakotay that we loved, at least not yet. It was very, very, very profound. And you can say what you want about Will Wheaton or Robert Beltran or any Garrett Wang, any of these other guys who played in the Star Trek show 30 years ago, but the ability to resurrect a character 30 years later is no easy task. And I think that Robert Beltran did such a phenomenal, amazing job. General Ark says, but it's a cartoon. Doesn't matter, man. The cartoon might be one thing. All right. The writing could be one thing, but it's still up to the actor to portray that. You could hear it in his voice. You could hear it in his speech. Just the fact that he was able to play that. And by the way, I might also point out the fact that the writers, all right, probably with the assistance of Will Wheaton and with the assistance of Robert Beltran, don't know to be certain, but I'm sure that Robert Beltran had some input into how his character would have reacted or would have behaved in these type of situations. And I think that team knocked it out of the park, Bubba Joe. His performance as the Chakotay we know, yet so different, was
talked
crazy.
about this. We talked about this in our last talk about Prodigy, is that the performances from all of the actors, of all the voice actors, were fantastic. I have no problem with the voice actor's performance of Dal or any of the characters in the show, including all the returning characters. Including someone like Jellicoe, right? I mean, just so many good portrayals of characters returning to this animated format as opposed to a live action format. But in my opinion, the writers failed Dal. Like, it wasn't the actor. It was not, and like you said, they got other things right. They got Robert Picardo right. I do think if I was being a little bit looking at some of those legacy characters, I think that they kind of missed the Doctor.
He was not as exciting to me, right? I mean, it was great to see him. It was a fan service moment.
He was a little off axis, I think, in Prodigy. I think that he was quite a bit different than what he was on Voyager. And that's okay. Like, the Doctor, his search to find his humanity is always going to make him a little bit different from time to time. But I think that for the most part, the most of the characters, they played their roles well. And, maybe it's that the person they had as the voice actor for Dal was too young and inexperienced to know, hey, this doesn't seem right. Seems like I'm taking a step back to stand up. Whereas someone like Beltran or Janeway Picardo can say, "Hey, this isn't my character. This is not the, these are experienced actors and actresses, and they can go to the writers and go, yeah, this isn't me. You need to rewrite this. And they can do that because they have so much time in the industry, and they feel confident to go to the writers and say so. Whereas some of the new people, the new characters in Prodigy, may not have felt like they had that license to do so. So, but as far as the performances that they put in, I had no problems with their voice performances. I thought technically that the show probably took a step forward in terms of both animation, editing, and the voice acting itself. I think all of those were better in season 2, as to be expected with any season 2, right? You can say that in the live action show. A season 2 is always going to be better than season 1 in terms of the performance of the crew. And I think that shows here. I just think that the writing of Dal really took a step back, and it took me a long time to decide, okay, I'm going to finish watching this because it's Star Trek, and I think it's going to redeem itself, because they decided to do Dal a disservice. And that's really the thing that upset me the most, is that we can jump right to it because we're in the second half of the show. It took 19 episodes.
It did.
19 and a half episodes to get to where we were at the end of episode 1, right?
And
that's not to say that those 19 and a half episodes weren't fun. Like, we got to see Wesley, and we got to see Janeway reunite with Chakotay, and we got to see the Doctor, and we got to see all these different things. But it felt like the last 10 minutes of the last half of episode 20 is where we should have picked up at the end of season 1.
I don't disagree. Having seen the entire season. Now, last time we talked, I'd only seen episodes 1 through 10. And while I agree that there was some character regression, I felt like it was still a natural progression of a character, going from a child to learning how to be a leader, but then now grasping with the burden of leadership, making it like the second guessing, not to be too grown up on it, but the imposter syndrome. Like, am I making the right decision? Are they agreeing with me just because, like I'm pronouncing myself the captain? You had mentioned in our private conversation this past week that even the characters' response to Dal showed progression. And that's why I feel like this story was somewhat acceptable, because if we look at, and again, we spent so much time on Dal, but coming through Dal in season 1, rebellious, angry, but he lived his life in servitude, finally breaking free. He was a prisoner, all right? So imagine the mindset of a young teenage prisoner, how angry at the world he must be. Then he gets out, he finds this ragtag group of friends whom he doesn't even trust at the very beginning. They begin to trust each other as time goes on, but he's the one who orchestrated everything. He's the one that got them out. He stole the ship. It's his ship. All right, so as he's coming through, he's the leader. He's in charge, mainly because he's always had to have that independent spirit. He's always had to look out for number one. He's always had to be the guy that makes the call, because that's all he's been able to do for himself, self-reliance. Now, I know that they made that feel more sweet in season 1, and they probably had to, okay? Because you're appealing to kids, you're looking for other Star Trek fans, so they had to make that rebellious, independent character seem less angry and less criminal, okay? But that's what he was. Now, you go in and you see him kind of calm down at the end of season 1. In season 2, you see him now still in that exploratory mode, less angry, less criminal, but still grappling with, I'm in charge, now what do I do with it? Like, am I going to make the right decisions? Am I going to fail? As you had mentioned, he always makes the decision, and then it always fails spectacularly. That kind of became his shtick, right? Was that he would make a decision, and it would fail. He would make a plan, it would fall apart. He would make, he would have this dialogue or make a choice, and it was the wrong one. So that became how he learned. And again, I'm going to argue this until the very end. I see the regression you're asking about here, but I just think that it wasn't regression. I think that it was missteps. I think it was error. I think it was a trial and error or learning by failing, learning from our mistakes as we're moving forward into this position of leadership. Now, the fact that the other
that's
crew,
the thing, though. In season 1, he was learning from his mistakes, and he was realizing that, by the end of season 1, he realizes, I'm not in prison anymore. I'm no longer into desperation mode. I'm no longer having to, rescue the entire crew from this evil being, he was always after us, who was always searching for us. We have escaped. We are free. Now what do we do? Now, we're going to go to Starfleet Academy. Okay, well, that's cool. Let's actually, and whether or not he was a right fit for Starfleet Academy, that's an entirely different discussion that takes place, basically off screen between season 1 and season 2. But that was obviously the growth point, right? You're no longer on the run. You are no longer in desperation mode. You are no longer, having to, rescue yourselves from these terrible things and these terrible pursuits. You have moved on to now your group of friends. You are a group of friends who are trying to find your way in the world just like any other young group of friends. This has been a tale that's been told on dozens, if not hundreds, of TV shows of young kids forming friends, trying to figure out where to go from here, right? And so they get to that point, and we start off season 2, and it's Dal is trying to sit like we have to get rescued. I have to take us out of here. We're gonna get put on a special mission. I'm gonna be in charge, and it's like that was never the case. Like if you go back and rewatch season 1, like you can see how he gets to that point, but it's like that was never what was the invitation for, right? And he doesn't understand, because all of his missions, right, all of the things he's experienced were all of these, I have to save everyone, and that's not the way Star Trek works. And if he had been paying attention in school, he would have realized that's not how
he was a
Starfleet
kid.
works.
He wasn't paying attention in school. None of us were.
I was.
Which
is why I can sit down and not be wrong.
Fair. Now, as the season progressed, we did see Dal with his harebrained ideas. As a matter of fact, the second half of season 2 all surrounded a decision that Dal had made to mess with the timeline, right? He had took it upon himself to find a way for Chakotay to be rescued, even though that really wasn't exactly, at that point in time, that was not the way that it needed to happen. He did that, he made a mistake, and it set up the entire second season where now they're actually trying to undo the unfurling of time. Season 2, the second half became very timey-wimey. I would love to know Shauna's insight on this, because I know she's even said from a writer's perspective, time travel hurts, right? It hurts the brain trying to think of all this stuff. You had this subplot where Gwen was battling it out for power or control, not power, control diplomatic relations over her homeworld. And there was this returning character from season 1, the diviner's assistant. I can't remember her name right off. I'm going to lose it here. But that was kind of the baddie character that had returned in season 2. And this character actually won a battle. Essentia actually got a leg up in battle because Dal messed up the timeline and was essentially erasing Gwendala from history. So this whole second half of the season was a race against the clock, very literally speaking, to prevent their reality from coming undone and losing everybody. So from a perspective of Chakotay, who had lost everybody, from a perspective of Dal now, I, again, still kind of understand this frantic behavior because he's about to lose everything. He's about to lose everyone. He's about to lose the protostar. He's going to lose Rock Talk. He's going to lose Gwendala. He's going to lose Zero. He's going to lose them all because history is literally coming undone. So he's acting frantically. He's trying to go around. He's trying to make decisions that are going to put the timeline back. But as we are so familiar, Bubba Joe, with the Krenim timeline from Voyager, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you do, no matter what calculations you make, you can never get a 100% restoration. You cannot fix time. When you mess with time, time messes back. It's a very famous saying. So when he goes and tries to become like the Krenim Time Lord and tries to control time, he finds out that he's going to lose. And eventually, once he has regained what he's lost, and spoiler alerts, this whole episode's a spoiler alert, once he's regained what he's lost, I think that finally we find him back at like we did at the end of season 1, and we find him much, much more matured. We find him in a position of, I've endured all of this, and now, like, I know what I've got, and I know who I've got, and I know that those are the people most valuable to me, and now I treasure it, and I respect my role, and I don't want to risk losing them again. That, I think, was part of his regression, was just the fact that he was ready. He was going to lose everything.
But that's not where we are at the beginning of season 1.
Season 2.
Sorry, the beginning of season 2. That's not where we're at the beginning of season 2.
No.
You want to say that he slipped back into his hero role towards the middle of season 2 as he's trying to save Gwen and save Zero and save everyone else? Sure. But that's not where we ended season 1.
Well,
That's not where we end season 1. So, right, my big complaint is where we started season 2.
Do you not?
We have to go through this growth again.
Well, but was it the same kind of growth, I guess is what I'm asking. Do you not feel like there was a difference in his character progression throughout season 2 than it was in season 1? I think that's just where we fundamentally disagree, is that it was different.
It feels exactly the same.
It was...
Feels like we have this Dal story that worked so well in season 1. Let's do it again in season 2. We'll change the particulars. Let's just do it again.
Well, nonetheless, we find ourselves as we proceed in towards the end, and we do eventually, through all of this loss, through all of this chaos, and there is perceived loss as time goes on, or as time becomes unraveled. He did begin to lose. He lost people along the way, and but he picked up others along the way, and then ultimately everything was good by the very, very end. What ended up happening were two things, all right? And this is an opportunity for me to sit down, Bubba Joe, because you told me from the beginning that Dow was never a captain. I disagreed with you on that. I felt like he was a budding captain. I felt like he was a learning captain. But as we discovered throughout the second half of season 2, you actually foresaw this the way that the writers did. Dow was never the captain at all.
Right.
And
Dow and we get that payoff in episode 20, right? But and as we talked about it kind of at the beginning of this show, Dow is the Will Riker. Whether or not he's the first officer, he's the guy that's always on the away mission. You're always sending Dal down to the planet. Whether you send Rock Talk or Murph or anyone else, Dal's always the one you're going to send down to the planet, because he's going to think on his feet. Whether he thinks correctly or not, he's fast, right? He's able to quickly think on his feet. He's going to be able to come up with this plan. He's going to be able to say, okay, this is how I want to react to this. Oh, well, that was the wrong plan. Well, here's the new plan of how we're going to react to this, right? He is always going to be that guy. And if the crew is in danger, he is going to put his person and his body and his mind on the line to save them, right? He is extremely loyal. Those are fine, like, first officer at best. He is the guy. He's your guy. He's the Riker. Riker was also the first officer, also showed some leadership capability, but Riker was always the guy on the away mission. Whether Worf went with him, or Data went with him, or Geordi went with him, or Crusher went with him, Riker was always the guy. He was always the guy on the away mission, right? And so the same thing happened in Voyager. The same thing, who is the person? Who is it that Cisco always sent on a mission, right? Once he got him, it was always Worf, right? It was always Worf. Maybe it was Worf and Dax, Worf and Kira, Worf and someone else. It was always Worf because he is the guy. You're right. He's no Jack Ransom. That's fair. That's fair, Dr. Judy. But Jack Ransom is always the guy you're sending down. Whether he's the first officer or not, he's always the guy. He's that guy. And that's fine. That's a great character to have on a show. It's not the captain, right?
You know, but now, with respect, you say that, but Will Riker ended up being a captain, a legendary captain. Those personality traits eventually served him.
Did we ever see that?
Well, sure.
We saw him be a commander. We've seen him be an admiral.
The Titan is his ship, and we have seen it in lower decks. He captains.
Okay, we did see it in lower decks.
That's
you are
right.
correct. We did see it in lower decks.
He is captain of the Titan. So, now, granted.
Where he's going, a 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4.
Granted, it is comedically dramatized in lower decks, but he is the captain.
Think it might not be. That might be how he was a captain. Bringing jazz hands back to the bridge.
Could have been. So, and they did talk about it in Picard season 3, how he had command of his own vessel. So, I while I get all that, and by the way, season 2, it's premature for Dal to have the character growth necessary to be the captain 30 years from now, which is how long it took Riker. Well, 10 years anyway, 10, 15 years is how long it took Riker to get command of the Titan. All that to be said, I very much enjoyed what the writers did, not only with the overarching story. Time travel hurts, it does, but I feel like it was understandable from a child's perspective. But the characters...
Are you jumping all the way to episode 20? Because I want to talk about a couple of episodes. Looking at the time, we've got about 40 minutes left before I'm going to turn into a pumpkin.
Yeah, something like that. We also have to take a break. But if you
want to take a break now, and then we'll kind of hit some of the highlights of the season, and then we'll get to the end, which is I think where you and I kind of let's do that.
Let's do that. We will take a break, and again in celebration of the return of Bubba Joe, we have special, actual, real commercials with the fake commercials as well. We're going to take this very quick break here on Talking Trek Live, Star Trek Fleet Command's official podcast, with this special edition and the return of Bubba Joe as we talk about the Star Trek universe, canon, television shows, and movies. All of this and more on the other side of the break. Please don't go anywhere. You looking for ways to enhance your gaming experience inside Star Trek Fleet Command? Well, Surtail has the answers for your health and wellness needs, especially while gaming. Gummies to sharpen the mind when you can't come up with 14 words where 3 would do. Surtail is an independent distributor of all aerial products that you would need to improve your gaming experience. Surtail also distributes bath salts, CBD creams and oils, weight loss products, protein shakes, workout aids, Delta 8 gummies, and so much more. Message Surtail on Discord or go to crazybunch.org. Today's show brought to you in part by the Musgrove Trial Firm in Georgia. Have you suffered personal injury in Georgia? You need a buddy. Give Buddy at the Musgrove Trial Firm a call, 678-226-1994. Visit them online at musgrovetrialfirm.com. Yo, what's up, Commanders? Great news about PvPtarget.com. You've known for a while that it exists and has some great reference tools regarding PvP banding and common crew loadouts, but they've recently launched brand new tools on the site, including a brand new cargo calculator page as well. This isn't your typical max cargo style calculator, but a brand new, unique tool that identifies the timer until you go over cargo. The game timer might tell you how long to zero the node, but how long until your miner is at risk? You can find out now by using the brand spanking new cargo calculator at PvPtarget.com.
This program is made possible in part by a grant from Pizza Smut. If we don't deliver your pizza in 30 minutes or less, we'll give you a free Penthouse magazine.
Introducing Resolutions, a manly scent that will make all the ladies give up fast. Whether you're joining a new gym or heading to the health food store, Resolutions will give you the smell of commitment that's meant to be broken. Resolutions, available now for a very limited time. Get some for yourself because we can't keep them. Resolutions.
I don't feel good, but I'm working. Seems like I'm on madly. You're wheezing badly. You really got a cold from me. 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 Baby, I sneezed on you. Now I need to run to the bathroom and grab a tissue. Oh, your fever's strong. Hope it don't last long. You really got a cold from me. You really got a cold from me. You really got a cold from me. You really got a cold from me, baby.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back into the show. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome in. My name is UltimatDJz. This is Talking Trek Live, Star Trek Fleet Command's official podcast. Appreciate you guys all being here as we hang out today with Bubba Joe discussing the second half of Star Trek Prodigy. And basically, as this conversation progresses, we're finding it less and less likely that we are going to get into Star Trek Lower Decks, which also premiered its series finale this past month. And we'll talk a little bit about that on further episodes coming up in the future. How can DJs build in the air? It's still light out. I know, it's crazy, Papa Smurf, but nonetheless, you are here. Just a couple of quick reminders. Last night's Studio B is available on our Patreon. Visit TalkingTrekSTFC.com or UltimateDJzPlays.com. Unlike all previous episodes of Studio B, this one is absolutely free. And a 2025 season premiere, if you will, the first show is available to everybody. That way you get a chance to see what it is you're missing before you actually might sign up for that pass. Consider it a free trial. Last night, 4.5 hours of Studio B are live for both video and audio. If you prefer to listen in your vehicle, listen to the amazing music, the jams, the fun, the comedy, the shout-outs, and the hard music that is thrown down every single episode in Studio B, and you have an opportunity to experience that absolutely free by registering on our Patreon as a free member, and you'll get access to this particular episode of Studio B as a trial before you may decide that you like it and sign up for the rest of them. I would also like to remind you guys very quickly about our Partner Plus promotion and push. If you guys take a look up here on your screen, let me say a couple of thank yous very quickly to Candy White, who just subbed with a Tier 1 Silver Tab with the 12-month resub. Iron Chef throwing 100 kitty bitties in here. Hero with the 24-month Tier 1 sub. Mini Shamu with the 12-month happy one-year anniversary. 7 of 7 with 100 kitty bitties. And Zerg with the Tier 1 resub. Blue Meanie also coming in with the 7-month resub on Prime. Thank you guys so very much. We are well on our way. Let's see. That would make that 44, which means we got to drop this one down to 556, right? 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. We got 556 to go for this month. Remember, if we hit these goals, 300 Partner Plus points and a total of 600 subs throughout the month, as you can see up here on this bar, we hit that. We give away $500 at the end of this month. If we do that 3 months in a row, not only do we accomplish our goals when it comes to Partner Plus, but we also give away an extra bonus 500 for a grand whopping total of $2,000 in STFC currency, $2,000 that we're going to be giving away. Bubba Joe, early on in our show, I can't remember any time where you and I would have thought that it would be feasible to give away $2,000, but here we are, trying to find a way to give away $2,000. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
It's absolutely nuts. And it's up to the community to help us get there. The Partner Plus goal and the Prime and sub points are absolutely there. The goal is 600 for the month. We hit that this month, $500. February is $500. March is $500. And if we hit all three, then it's a bonus $500 for a grand total of 2,000 Italian imported twinkly lights. All right, there you go. Right before the break, Bubba Joe was...
Why do they have to be Italian?
That's the quote from the show. I don't remember. 20,000 imported Italian twinkly lights.
What do Twinkies have to do with it?
The Christmas National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. It took me a second. I was getting ready to say.
Oh, I thought you were talking about a good Christmas movie.
I was getting ready to say something about Van Wilder, and I'm like, wait, that's not right. Van Wilder. Man, that haven't heard about that in a minute. I don't know why that popped into my head. Van Wilder, wasn't that Ryan Reynolds? Was he Van Wilder?
No. I watch good movies. I don't know what movies you're talking about.
Ryan Reynolds is great. He's Deadpool.
Ryan Reynolds is great.
Yes. Thank you. Van Wilder was Ryan Reynolds in his youth. Yeah, see, it was also great. All right, right before the break, Bubba Joe wanted to give us highlights on the second half of Season 2 of Prodigy as we get ready to conclude our discussion and analysis of Prodigy before we jump into Lower Decks, which may not happen on this show. Plus, coming up, Bubba Joe, I believe in
don't
2
tease them.
weeks.
We're not getting Lower Decks this show.
No, I didn't mean this show. I mean, Lower Decks is coming soon, but you know what else that we'll have to talk about hopefully on our next show is the introduction of the Section 31 movie that is streaming on Paramount Plus later this month, everybody.
I'm pretty sure that's what we're going to talk about in our next episode.
Oh, it's going to have to be. Section 31 is going to be launched on Paramount Plus literally in 19 days, January 24th, 2025. In a recent interview, one of the characters said, Bubba Joe, this is the most un-Trek Trek that he has ever known in his life, and he's watched them all. He actually fears that fans are not going to enjoy this because it is not traditional Trek. One thing that he mentioned in his interview, and you actually know this to be true, that fans always take, Star Trek fans especially, always take a little bit of time to warm up to something if it's not normal. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's not what we perceive to be normal, if it's not normal Trek.
So let's talk about that for a second. And Star Trek fans are not unique to this, right? Star Wars fans are the same, Marvel fans are the same. Like it takes them a while.
Yeah.
But everyone has a different definition of what normal is, right? If you talk to your boys, DJ, I bet to them normal Star Wars is episodes 1, 2, and 3, right? To me, normal Star Wars is episodes 4, 5, and 6. And so if you deviate from that normal, if you talk to older people, their normal Star Trek is the original series. Talk to people of my generation, it's probably the Next Generation, possibly Deep Space Nine.
Mm-hmm.
And so anything that deviates from your normal is going to take a long time for you to get warm up to, right? And so I do not remember the Titanic, Dr. Juby. So everyone's perception of what they want from a thing, and that's the thing about being a fan, right? I didn't have to love Prodigy to be a Star Trek fan. There's nothing in the rules that says I have to. That'd be like saying you have to love the book Amazati because you're a Star Trek fan. No, you can be critical that that's a terrible book and still be a Star Trek fan. It's allowed, right? You can find your fandom and say, I love this part of Star Trek. I love this part of Star Wars. Or I love how Star Wars is this vast universe, and it's all these shows interacting with this vast universe. And I can say the same thing about Star Trek. I can say the same thing about Stargate. I can say the same thing about any other fandom that I have. I enjoy the universe that this fandom has created. I may not like the characters that this show introduced, or I may not like the way that they told this story, or I may not like this other thing about this specific thing. But that doesn't mean I'm not a fan of the series as general. I can be a fan of the universe, whether or not the writers and directors that decide to interact with that universe do things that I like. Doesn't mean I'm no longer a fan. So, but everyone's is based on what they got to first, right?
Well, that's exactly what this guy writes. I'm looking at this interview And they got to interview the actor who plays Zeph, Robert Kaczynski. He plays Zeph, one of the characters in Emperor Giorgio's ragtag Section 31 Misfits. He says, "I'm terrified of how it's going to be received because it's not the Trek people want. The Trek people want, the Trek that we all want, is 1,000 more episodes of The Next Generation. Everyone's always furious that they're not getting more TNG, whilst at the same time, when TNG came out, everyone hated it." He says that he's worried about initial reaction. This is going to come along and not feel like any Trek that they've ever seen. So
this is going to be Star and the Furious Trek. This is what this is going to be.
Yeah.
This is going to be Fast and the Furious Star Trek, and that's fine. I may not like it. I didn't like the Fast and the Furious movies. That may not be for me, but I'm still going to try it. I'm still going to see it for a couple of reasons. One, I have absolute faith in the lead. She's fantastic. And I've been wanting this for a long time. She's been fighting for it for a long time. It was going to be a series at one point, and now it's just a movie. So I'm hoping that it is at least entertaining. Let's talk. I mean, how many people have you heard that are like, Kelvin universe isn't real? There are lots of people that say the Kelvin universe isn't canon. Okay. They don't like 90210 Star Trek. That's what they call it, right?
I've never heard anybody call it
Zachary
that.
Quinto. Oh, absolutely. There, you could search that up.
90210 Star Trek.
Yes,
that's
90210 Star Trek. Star Trek for the younger generation. And so, but you don't have to, like, they're like, and that's not Kirk. And I'm like, it's Kirk to some people. That's Spock to some people, and that's okay, right? I don't care who decides, who's going to be, Kirk or Spock, or if they decide to redo Kirk and Spock again. If they weren't such interesting characters, they wouldn't be retelling those stories over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the Star Trek universe fast. Now, do I want them to continue telling Kirk and Spock stories? I'd like them to tell something new. That's why I liked Lower Decks. It's why I liked Next Generation. It's why I liked Deep Space Nine. It's okay to tell new stories, right? It's okay to tell new stories with new characters. But it's also okay to tell some old stories with old characters that you've decided to bring into the current livelihood of people, and try and get new fans to identify with this universe that is so vast, which is one of the primary reasons why any company would ever want to capture Paramount, is so that they can have their fingers on the pulse of Star Trek.
Yeah. I think when you talk about the resurgence of some of those characters that people know and love, that does open us up to being able to talk about a lot of stuff in Lower Decks, which we will. I don't think that you're going to see a lot of familiarity in Section 31 other than Empress Georgiou. That is the lead. That is our character. That is the reason that we as Star Trek characters are going to watch this film. Is for Philippa Georgiou. So I'm very, very excited about that. Michelle Yeoh is brilliant. She's a genius. This hopefully is not the last time we see of her in the Star Trek universe, but it very well may be. And that was something that you and I were talking about a little bit this past week, Bubba, and just kind of a preview into the conversation that we will have coming up in future episodes about Section 31, which will be featured on our very next episode with Bubba Joe. In the meantime, want to circle back and finish up on Star Trek Prodigy. Do we expect, do we see the potential for Season 3? You're talking about highlights here of Season 2. Do you think that these highlights are high enough to bring us a third season?
I think anything's possible. I think that it is going to depend. Well, to be honest, I think it's going to depend on how the merger shakes out. The merger between, I think it's Paramount and Skydance, I believe, and where their company priorities are, and whether they're going to want to continue to try and reach Star Trek to a younger audience. And if they do, I think that Prodigy is an excellent medium for that. I think that would make a lot of sense for them, and that would be something that they should try and pick up. And whether they still broadcast on Netflix or if they bring it back to their streaming app, I think that's absolutely something that they should want to do. But they could also decide that they are going to try and keep the core of Star Trek towards the older audience, the people who grew up with the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager, the hardcore fans of Star Trek, and try and deliver something that would appeal to them, which would probably honestly not be a cartoon, even though I have loved Lower Decks and would hope that there would be something for that. And I have accepted that Prodigy is Star Trek, and so it's fine. It's just not, it has missteps, as we've talked about. And so I think that there's going to be a shakedown of what's going to happen. Like, we don't have, for a while, it looked like there was going to be more Star Trek, and we have more Star Trek coming. And now we have Section 31, and we have Strange New Worlds that's going to come out sometime, like maybe towards the end of the year. So I don't know what the future of Star Trek looks like, and I think a lot of that has to do with business behind the scenes. It has nothing to do with whether Star Trek is healthy
and
or not,
that's
or what's gonna
unfortunate, really. But I mean,
I think
a cruel fact, I guess.
Yeah, but I think that it is the best way for them to reach to a newer audience is to continue with the Prodigy. Now, the catch is that you can't wait until 2028 to release new Prodigy, right? You've missed the window. So if they're going to do new Prodigy, we're probably going to have to hear about it soon, because if you wait 4 or 5 years, you've missed that opportunity, right? Those fans have grown up 4 or 5 years without Star Trek, and they're no longer going to be interested. You'd have to try and do something different. You couldn't just pick up Prodigy. But I think that they've done enough, assuming they don't screw up the transition from season 2 to season 3. I think they've done enough that they've built a core of what they can do with these characters and continue on. The same could be said for the way that Lower Decks ended, but that's a discussion for something down the line.
Absolutely. So as we take a look at these high points, at these material moments inside season 2, the second half of Star Trek Prodigy.
Well, so I got a question for you. So
Okay.
my question for you is, what did you think of episode 17, The Brink, when the Protostar returns? They decide that the Federation and the Valnakat are on the brink of war, and the Protostar is going to return to the Voyager. And what happens?
Well, there was a lot of pushback there. All right, there was a lot of pushback because Chakotay did not believe the fact that the threat had been neutralized there. So when you take a look at all the events kind of leading up to that, I felt like it was a momentous occasion. All right, I felt like it was.
I'm talking about specifically what happens in that episode.
Well, I don't know. Tell me. I don't remember episode numbers. I'm not a nerd.
This is the Mirror Universe, parallel universe episode.
Oh, that was so good. So good. This is the Mirror Universe episode. I mean, everybody loves a good Mirror Universe parallel episode thing.
Not everyone.
Everybody loves it. All right. Tell me, Bubba Joe, why did you not love it?
I have enjoyed a little bit of the Mirror Universe when Star Trek has done it, but I think that most of the time it is the Mirror Universe feels to me like it is lessons in extremes, and that's not the reality, right? People exist in a medium neutral for the most part. There are obviously extremes that everyone has in their belief system, but it feels like you take the most good person and you make them the most evil. And you can have a Mirror Universe episode, and you can have a Mirror Universe where someone is a little bit more evil or a little bit more good than they used to be, and make it an intriguing story. And so because of that, when they've done these extreme episodes of Mirror Universe, I have disliked them greatly. And so the Mirror Universe that they encounter, even though it's not the Mirror Universe because it's, not technically, they didn't cross universe. It's first off, they screwed up what it takes to get to the Mirror Universe, and so they invented something. Fine, they invented a new way to get there.
Well, I don't know that they invented a new way to get there because Wesley Crusher had been captured. They needed a new way to build to cross that dimensional rift because, if you'll recall later in that episode, even and I don't remember what character said it. My gosh, was it Seska? I can't remember now.
I don't remember.
There was a no, maybe it was Janeway. It was Mirror Janeway. It's Mirror Janeway who said that they had sealed that multiverse travel. Like, they had made it so that it wasn't possible. So they were just as surprised to see them as anybody else was about being there, because that technology, they had already developed technology to seal the multiverse. So when they had to rebuild this new technology to be able to cross over, that's actually what Wesley did. Wesley, if you recall, it was later eventually revealed that Wesley had allowed himself to be caught to manipulate Essentia into building the technology that they needed to fix the paradox. That involved building the technology necessary to cross the dimensional rifts.
No, I understand. This was very cliche in terms of how they treat the mirror universe, and I didn't enjoy it. Like, they brought back Tuvix, fine, like, okay, but like, it just didn't register with me, right? It felt like we have 6 episodes left to talk about this story, to resolve the conflict, to resolve all these things that we've kind of created from this season, interesting stories, and we decided to crack into the mirror universe.
I loved it.
To me, it felt like towards the end of season 1, when they had the I'm in love with Gwen storyline.
This was,
and I just was like, we have limited time. Prodigy's not the only Star Trek that's done this. Lots of other Star Treks is like, let's go tell this other story. It's like, I want to hear about this coming war. I want to hear about the Borg are almost here. How are we going to deal with them? I want to hear about, like, you have been building this up. The Dominion War is right on our doorsteps. I want to hear more about how we are going to protect our livelihood and our families, and I want to hear how we're going to deal with that. I don't have time for nor care about this other story. If they'd have taken the Mirror Universe story and stuck it in season 3 somewhere, which again, I think this story exists here because they wanted to do something interesting and they didn't know if they were getting a season 3. If they knew they were getting a season 3, they could take this and these characters and say, we're going to give this some breath. We're going to take the Protostar crew and we're going to stick them in the Mirror Universe and we're going to see how they relate to it, because that's what they've done and that's what they do best, is when they take these people who are not born of Starfleet, who didn't exist in our prime timeline, and they can come back and say, here's something that is very much Star Trek, very much like the Prime Directive, very much like the Mirror Universe, very much like all these Star Trek tropes that make things Star Trek. How are these people going to deal with it? How are they going to deal with the Mirror Universe, and what does the Mirror Universe mean? I think that would have been a fantastic story, but again, seems like the writers and possibly others within their camp said, we really want to do a Mirror Universe, so let's jam it in here in season 2. And it didn't help them in any way. And it just, I hear you. You like the Mirror Universe, so it's fine. But I really think that this could have been a much better story, a much more interesting story, had they said, okay, we're going to resolve the Essentia story. We're going to resolve the Essentia story, and we're going to put the crew in charge. We're going to put the crew and we're going to build them just as like we're about to get to, because this is, I think, the kind of the apex of where the show gets to. And we're going to take this crew and we're going to give them this thing. And then once we've given them this ship, once we've done this, we're ready to start throwing more Star Trek tropes at them. And this is one that could have been given a lot of breadth and energy and, been very interesting. And they could have done this. And in my opinion, they just failed.
Well, it certainly offered some fan service, as you have talked about in the past. The fact that we've got exposure to the Mirror Universe, if anything, I will call it a little bit of fan service, because I did get excited at seeing Mirror Janeway. We've never seen Mirror Janeway before, like never. So I thought that it was kind of cool to see that rendition, to see that new piece of content, which was Mirror Janeway. Never saw that before. Have never seen the return of Tuvix before. Had never seen a Mirror Chakotay, in which we didn't really, but kind of did. So, granted, 22 minutes is a lot to explore this, but this is what Shauna has talked about on the show in the past. You know, we got 22 minutes. And for us to fully give the breadth of story that some intricate story lovers are going to want is impossible in 22 minutes. But this was an episode that I did find a little bit of thrill with. I think because it just maybe it was a little bit of fan service, perhaps. And it was also a simplistic way, as Brett points out in the chat, which is brilliant. They simplistically described it for children who didn't know what the mirror universe was, as they described it like as the mirror universe and the prime universe planets in space that had over time drifted apart, and they had to go back to a time when the universes were closer together. You got to remember, children don't know what the mirror universe is either. So this could have
which is
been
why it could have been something very fun. You put the crew on the ship, they're exploring space, right? That you put the crew on a ship and say, here is your ship. Now go be explorers, right? This is the Star Trek mantra. Go be explorers. And they can go, and part of their 5-year journey, right? That's what we talk about. The Star Trek as a 5-year journey. Part of their 5-year journey could have been they encounter the mirror universe. Now they're kids with a starship. They've encountered the mirror universe. How are they going to react to it? And how is that going to be different than the way that adults react to it? Do they encounter kid versions of themselves? Do they encounter adult versions of themselves? Do they encounter evil versions of themselves, right? You have all of these things that you can work with. What does an evil Rock Talk even look like, right? I mean, it could have been really a lot of fun, right?
Yeah.
I just feel like it was a wasted 22 minutes. When you only have 440 minutes in a season, these 22 minutes felt completely wasted to me. And that was my biggest problem.
Well,
but anyway, we're running out of time and we want to get to the end. And I know you're really excited about this, and I am too.
Go ahead. We get to a season 3, then I definitely agree that it's a story that could use some more breadth. Okay. If we get to a season 3, this is definitely something we should come back and explore. It could even be a portion, a percentage portion, not one episode, but 4 episodes of a 3rd season is exploring, getting stuck in the mirror universe or this or that. I could totally see them going to the mirror universe and reacquainting themselves with Mirror Janeway. That being a reunion style episode of Nemesis from last season. I can see something like that. I would love to see more. Obviously, I would love to see a season 3. I don't know that I would consider it a waste. However, I do see your point in which it doesn't serve outside of its own episodes. So if anything, I might say that this is a trope. This is a seed that they would have planted, kind of like Space Seed. All right. This is a seed that they planted for future content. If in fact they're able to come back and get that future content, this is absolutely something they could come back and pick up on.
Well, and the thing is that if you believe that there's a chance you can get a 3rd season, and you think that there are things that you should save for that 3rd season, and I think the Mirror Universe could have been one of them.
Sure. What else did you find as a highlight that you liked or didn't like regarding the second half of Prodigy?
Yeah, let's talk about the end. Let's talk about episode 20, right? So,
I loved episode 20. It
so
felt
episode 20.
So
there
good.
is so much to like about episode 20, right?
Felt so good.
Agreed. What you talk. You've not spent a lot of time talking, so you tell me what your highlights of episode 20
First of all, there was I don't want to give away too many of the details. I want you guys to be able to enjoy this, but there was a lot of action. All right. And actually, let me rephrase. We say episode 20. 19 and 20 need to be watched together. It's a 2-part episode, okay? So you've got that. It was Ouroboros was the name of the episode. It was episode 19 and 20.
Could have been a 3-part episode if they hadn't done the Mirror Universe.
3 is too much. You'll lose the attention of children. All right. That being said, they are traveling to Solum. They're trying to take out Essentia. Essentia is trying to take out the Federation. And in doing so, they've learned that the stakes of taking out the Federation include wiping this universe from history. All right, so there are some big stakes here. You've also got the Civil War on Solum. Essentia, we talked about this last time. Essentia, I think, was a Thanos-style villain. She never thought she was the bad guy. She was protecting her people. And I feel this is going to sound crazy, but I was slightly empathetic to Essentia, which made it that much better for me, Bubba Joe. I understood her perspective. She wasn't a bad guy. She was just doing bad things for a good reason, which was the protection of her people. I feel like that made this story that much better. That much more emotionally invested I became into this story because Essentia was a somewhat relatable character. But you also had a pinnacle of action. You had, the final showdown. You had all of this action going on. And then, as I love to see, and this is the highlight for me, and we can spend a couple of minutes on it. I even made a soundbite or two. I hate cliffhanger seasons. I have always hated cliffhanger seasons. I always like a season to have a bow on it. I like it to feel good. I would love for it to set up a future story, but I don't like unanswered questions. I don't like the feeling of we didn't finish. I love Strange New Worlds, okay? I really do. But their season finales piss me off because I have to wait, in this case, almost 2 entire years to get the solution to that episode. I don't like that. That makes me mad as a fan. It doesn't make me want to come back in 2 years because I know I'm just going to have to wait 2 more years to be able to see what happens at the end of that season.
I think that's incorrect. You absolutely will wait for as long as it takes to come back. That's why they do cliffhangers.
I hate them.
They want to make sure that the hook is there to keep people in. You can hate them, except that you still respond positively then.
I will respond positively because it's Trek. But you know what? I came back to Prodigy Season 2. They had a nice wrap-up on Season 1, and they had a beautiful wrap-up on Season 2.
DJ. Give me a show that you watch that isn't Star Trek.
Don't be ridiculous.
You watch anything else?
Don't be silly. No, I don't watch anything else.
Cliffhangers are used everywhere, and they are used because they are all but guaranteeing that people will come back.
For the first episode or two, but that spells destruction for a series. Even Netflix right now is compiling data on the breadth of people who have watched the entirety of Prodigy. They literally do not care. All right, I've seen this in a million interviews. They don't care how many people watch the first 3 episodes. They want to know who watched episode 15. All right, because if you watched episode 15, that means you're invested in the series, right? Like, nobody cares. I mean, obviously, for statistics, but nobody cares if you watch episode 1. They want to know who watched episode in the middle. All right?
So you're telling me if there was a show that you were watching and they had a cliffhanger that you were invested in, and then they come back and they resolve the cliffhanger in a way that keeps you in love with the characters and the story that is there, you will not continue to watch the series.
I'm not saying that at all. Obviously, I'm going to come back and watch it if I love the show and I'm invested in the show and I'm invested in the characters. What I'm saying is I would do that anyway. Because I'm invested in the show and I love the show and I love the characters. Don't make me wait 2 years to get to the end of a story.
The numbers don't support that. That's the problem. Right? The numbers don't support that. The numbers show that if there's not a cliffhanger or something that it... Don't give me that look. I understand it bothers you. I understand that feeling, okay? But the numbers show that if you have a cliffhanger, people are more likely to remember that the season is coming back and will invest the time in remembering that it's coming back. And when it comes back, they will come back and watch it. Whether or not they stick with it, that's an entirely different discussion. But if you just leave it as you've ended it and it doesn't have a thing, they could launch another season. Again, like if it's a year, that's one thing, right? If it's, the end of the season in the spring and it starts up in the fall, that's one thing. But if it's 2 years down the line, like a lot of shows these days, they take time. If it's 2 years down the line, there is no guarantee the audience comes back. And that's the problem.
Here's the thing. What was the date of the last episode of Strange New Worlds Season 2? And I'm actually trying to look it up. Strange New World Season 2 episode calendar. All right. The final episode, the season finale, August 10th, 2023. Okay? August 10th, 2023 was the season finale of Season 2, Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Do you know that Season 3 is not expected to premiere until either November or December of 25.
Correct.
That is a 27-month break. Now, the fact that Hegemony, the season finale of Strange New Worlds, ended on that form of cliffhanger, okay, makes me mad. Now, if I have to wait 6 or 8 months to see it, so be it. You're going to make me wait 27 months to see the resolution of that story? Got to be honest with you. I will always come back and watch Strange New Worlds. I'm a Trek fan at heart, but that pisses me off as a fan, dude. Don't make me wait. If you want to make me wait a couple of months, fine. 27 months? No.
So they don't want you to wait 27 months, but there are reasons, and you know the reasons why this is happening. This is happening to lots of shows.
I get it, and the reasons are fact. The reasons have to do with business, and the writers and the studios can't get around it. So don't do that to your fans. It wasn't intended to be so long. I get that, Tycon, but if you know that that's going to be a thing, don't do that to your fans.
It was already done. So you wanted them, instead of doing that, you wanted them to just cut the season finale and have it just end at the episode previous.
I want a feel-good wrap, all right? And this is what I'm talking about. We got a feel-good wrap with Dow.
So hang on, let's talk about this for a second. So Star Trek Strange New Worlds was renewed for Season 3 before Season 2 aired. Remember that. It was renewed for Season 3 before Season 2 aired, okay? Season 2 had been filmed and was done before Season 2 aired. Okay? And then they have the writer's strike. Okay? And everything gets set back. Writers and they all stroke. And we've talked about that. We talked about it on Talking Trek. That screwed everything up. Screwed up every timeline. It was already renewed for a Season 3. So when they filmed Season 2, which was before the strike, and they said, we can do a cliffhanger because we're going to have Season 3. We are locked in. We're going to have a Season 3. We can do this cliffhanger, and it'll be fun. There's no way they could have said, we're going to anticipate a massive strike, and now there's going to be a 2-year break between the end of Season 2 and the beginning of Season 3. When they were confirmed for Season 3, before Season 2 was even done filming, they'd confirmed for Season 3. It was done. Like the only other option they have is stop the season before the cliffhanger and don't show that episode. That's the only other option they had because they were done filming. They couldn't film more because the strike was happening. So the only option they had was to play the cliffhanger and know that there was going to be a delay before it comes back. I understand your frustration, DJ, but because of the unique circumstances that happen in the business, this was the only option available to them.
I agree, though, with Blue Meanie. It's dangerous to wait. You will have attrition in your fan base. Now, that being said, I appreciated the wrap on the story that we got with Prodigy. I appreciated the wrap that we got with Dow. Dow had a moment.
And this is somewhere where we agree.
Yeah, Dow had a moment. As we get ready to kind of wrap on episode 20, I mean, we're talking the last 5 minutes, not even the last 3 minutes of episode 20 might have been the most tear-jerking, profound, if it would have been tear-jerking, was probably the most opportunistic to be tear-jerking of the entire season, which was just a family feel-good moment. I've got a clip for you here when Dow, and spoiler alert here, okay? If you haven't watched it and you're not interested in hearing this clip, we don't have visual for you. It's broadcast media, would get stricken very immediately, but I do have an audio clip of Dow finally acknowledging what his role was always meant to be. And this is where Bubba Joe gets his payoff. And I wonder, Bubba, and after we play the clip, I'll come back. You have significant problems with Dow and his personality throughout the show, but did it not improve the payoff, the emotional payload of this moment for you? Take a listen here.
You know, a good first officer is loyal, capable, and they keep their captain honest. Which is why I'll be right here as your number one.
Tao, what are you saying?
I made a mistake, Gwen. That chair never belonged to me. Others came before me. Others will follow. Now, it's your time to lead.
Now it is your time to lead. The chair never belonged to him. This was a payoff. And honestly, even sitting here right now, Bubba Joe, kind of got a little bit of goosebumps just listening to that, because I can kind of close my mind and I can see that moment, all right? When you're talking about all of the interactions that Dal and Gwen had, all of the adventures, all of the emotions, all of the teenage crushes, all right? And then you finally get to the point where they are given a ship, all right? Because that's where we're at. They have a ship. They are officially on a Starfleet mission now. They are assigning a captain. This crew has their own ship. And Dal, for the first time in 40 episodes, comes in and says, I finally see, Gwen, it was always meant to be you. Do you not think that payoff was made better, Bubba, by the fact that he was a raging superhero teenager for 39 episodes?
No. Because we had already gotten this growth. And we could have had this on episode 2 of this season and been fine.
Maybe. I felt like this was a feel-good moment. And when I'm talking about wrap-ups, okay, when I'm talking about wrap-ups to a season, this was a thing that felt good. We had all the action. We had the wrap-up to the story. But then they literally gave us, and Bubba, this is all, you talked about the 22 minutes of wasted space in the Mirror Universe. They gave us 5 minutes. That's all it took. It might not have even been 5 minutes. It might have been 3 minutes. At the end of episode 40, at the end of season 2, episode 20, they gave us 3 minutes to wrap up the season, to feel good, to get their ship.
No cliffhangers for DJ.
No cliffhanger. To feel good, to wrap up, to show everybody what we learned. And I have another clip here in a moment, which I'll play when Bubba's ready. We got the introduction of yet another new captain's going to warp phrase. I got chills when I heard it. I don't know what it is about that. Star Trek fans everywhere nerd out about the first time a captain ever utters their words going to warp. I don't know what started that, but that is a big thing. And Gwen has officially, in canon, gone down in the history books as a Star Trek captain and has her go to warp phrase. Bubba, this, I don't think, is offensive for any show to give us 3 or 4 minutes of wrapping up a story, tying together some loose ends, and saying goodbye until the next season starts. I don't see what's wrong with that.
And similar to Strange New Worlds, if Prodigy had been confirmed, guaranteed to get a season 3, I will guarantee you this season would have ended on a cliffhanger.
Season 1 was not ended on a cliffhanger, and they already had filmed season 2. It was already in production.
They were not guaranteed that it was going to air. That was already.
But they already made it. I mean, they had already.
Doesn't matter.
That does matter. They had already made it. The writers had already written the story. Yes, because they made it before they even knew that season 2
they
was
didn't make it. They had a story. They had an outline of what they wanted to do, but they didn't have. They did not have a guarantee that season 2 was ever going to happen.
They knew. Yes, they did. Season 2
No,
was ordered and made.
No.
Yes. I think I'm right on this. I could be wrong. I am pretty sure.
Well, you are sitting down.
I am pretty sure that season 2 of Prodigy was made while season 1 was airing on Nickelodeon and Paramount Plus. Let's find out. I'm going to find out.
Well, let's find out another time because I got to go.
2.
So let's DJ.
Fine.
Let's play the clip and let's go. Because we agree. The ending of the season is excellent, and the speech from Dal and then the phrase from Gwen, fantastic. So let's go ahead and do that, and then I gotta go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, going down for the very first time in history as a Star Trek captain, Gwendala, and her go to warp phrase.
Let's reach the stars.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Let's reach the stars, Bubba Joe, and I love it. She reached the stars. That's unique. It's hers. Putt says, good captain's phrase, but the ship needs some work. Engineering has a response time problem. Took a good 15 seconds to rev up and go to warp.
Gotta work on that.
That's right. That's right.
Jenkum needs some work.
Blue Meanie says, I loved everything about Burnham except for Let's Fly. See, I liked Let's Fly too. I think I like them because they're unique. Bubba, last question before we get ready to go, because I know that football is on and it is time to go. Bubba Joe, your favorite captain's phrase of any of the captains that we've ever heard. What is your favorite captain's phrase?
Well, it has to be engage. Has to be engage.
Picard's engage, right?
Yep.
Okay. Picard's engage. That was good.
Followed closely by Strange New Worlds Spock.
Make the ship go fast.
I want make the ship go now.
Candy White says, I love Pike. Punch it. Engage the core. All right. Dragon Keeper agreeing with Bubba. Spock had the best one ever. Make it go. Ladies and gentlemen, reading your favorite captain's quotes out of the chat. As I do so, I want to thank my partner, Bubba Joe, for returning to the stage of Talking Trek Live as we continue to explore the Star Trek universe, the television shows, the movies, the properties, the behind the scenes, the interviews that we will be bringing you. Coming soon, an interview with Dr. Aaron McDonald, the astrophysicist consultant for Paramount, who has actually appeared in 2 different Star Trek series. She is literally canon now, everybody. And we're going to talk to her about her role in the Paramount Star Trek universe. That's coming up very, very soon. Ransoms. What was? Engage the core. Ransoms. That's what his was. Engage the core.
Engage the core.
Engage the core. I really wanted Boimler to have a captain's phrase like, stop staring at me and just do it. I would love to see that. Love to see. And we're going to talk about Lower Decks coming up. The sad but also equally as amazing episode of television. They got their season 5 series finale. It also had a very appropriate wrap up. Very, very sweet. Loved it in a Lower Decks kind of way. We'll be talking about that coming up here later on as well. My name is UltimatDJz. This has been a presentation of Talking Trek, a registered trademark and recorded in front of a live studio audience for distribution across podcast platforms everywhere. I am UltimatDJz, your friendly neighborhood cat person, saying meow for now, inviting you to remember to check out our website at UltimateDJzPlays.com and TalkingTrekSTFC.com for links and access to our Studio B content, our Patreon, our merchandise store, where we've got brand spanking new merch over there, courtesy of Candy White, and so much more content available on our YouTube, Twitch, and podcast channels. For everyone here at Talking Trek, take care, everybody. We'll catch you on the next one. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye. Love you, man. See ya.